All right, welcome to part 4 of my video demonstrations for the VM builds for Module 3. I'm going to be doing other videos about other aspects, other skills that you'll need to develop over as we go through this module. Most of them will be shorter than this. Anyway, so I'm preparing to build my Kali VM. As we discussed in a previous video, Kali version 2020.1 runs kernel version 5.4.0. So I'm going to pick Linux 5.4.0. Newer versions of VMware Workstation, say if you've got all the way up to 15.5.5, maybe there's a Kali option. If there is a Kali option, use it. But if you have an older version of VMware that you're using, and you're trying to describe the guest OS to the hypervisor, give it the best information you have available, even if that's just the kernel version. So I'm going to click Next. I'm going to call this Kali 2020 AMP. Always put your initials in it. 8 is not enough, so I'm going to give this 16 gigs, not 160. Goodness gracious. I also need to make another couple of changes. First, I have not enough memory. I'm going to bump it up to a gig. And then I'm going to point it at the ISO, Kali, and open, and close, and finish. And let's power this up. Now, I'm probably going to pause here in a second because, as with any other build, there's a fair amount of... okay, so we've got Kali. Graphical install, it looks a whole lot like your Debian installer. We don't want any advanced options. Graphical install, I think it believed me. If you're wondering at all, remember Control-Alt will recover your keyboard. Okay, so it's thinking. I'm going to pause now so I don't watch it think too much. Okay, and okay, so I'm going to pause it right here. We'll come back to this in just a minute. Okay, so this is very obviously the Anaconda installer. I'm going to choose click in here, choose my language, choose my layout. Yeah, all the things that you did on one screen in Ubuntu Desktop, you do on 3 in Kali. Kali is much closer to the load experience you've had up until this point. Ubuntu was the real departure. Let me pause this because I don't know how long it's going to last. Okay, so it wants a host name, Kali. I'll call it Kali 2020 AMP. Continue. I don't need a domain name. I could add this thing to the tstc.local if I wanted to. This is a decision I can make after the fact later. So it's going to configure the network. I'm going to use the same settings I've been using all along. I'm going to pause it for just a second to double check my work. Okay, and I didn't mistype, so everything's golden. Let's see, continue. Notice I did not set a root password. This is intentional for systems like Ubuntu and Kali. It is still possible, I think, to work your way into root, possibly by pulling shenanigans, which allow you to set the root password using sudo privilege. Now, if you can do that, and you shouldn't be able to do that, you need to look at what the sudo group can do. One thing I'll probably look at once I get Kali up and going is what the etc sudoers file looks like, to see if the sudo group has the ability to do things like change the root password, which frankly is not a good idea. given that you could bypass the need, if you have sudo privilege and the privilege to do everything that root can do. If you can do sudo su, then you can become root using only your own sudo password. Now, if that's what you want, if you are the root user on the system, that's one thing. If you are not the root user on the system, that is a whole other story. Okay, so we're going to use the entire disk, click through real fast. Yeah, choose yes. The save option here is pre-selected. Sometimes that's the case. Most of the time, the easy option is pre-selected, and sometimes the save option is pre-selected, so pay attention. And it is going to install the base system, and I'm going to pause again because this could take a little while. And we're back. It wants to know about HTTP proxies. I don't need one, so I'll click through. It is scanning the mirror. Notice it didn't ask me about a mirror. Ubuntu asked me about the mirror. Debian has lots and lots of mirror options, but Kali is, relatively speaking, a niche product. So the only repo is, well, I won't say that the only repo is the Kali repo. There are probably mirrors somewhere, but they don't expose that choice to you. If it's something you need to do as a matter of optimization later, I would be very surprised if you can't do that kind of thing inside, say, Synaptic in the repositories window. So I'm going to pause this again because obviously it's unpacking and installing software. And as we all know, this can take a while. And we're back at our next major decision point. The big questions here are, what desktop environment do you want? I'm going to go with the default Kali desktop XCFE. You could go with LXDE or Mate or GNOME or KDE Plasma, but for the sake of the demonstration, I'm going to pick XCFE. It's not personally my favorite, but having used Kali with GNOME, which I built on that machine over there, I can tell you that the key menu choices, the 15 or so major categories of tools that you can invoke in the GUI from Kali, those menu options are visible in XCFE or GNOME or KDE. I would be very surprised if they weren't also available in LXDE, Mate, and so forth. The other questions are which kind of meta packages and tools do you want? The default installation has a lot of tools. If you want everything in the kitchen sink, you might just do the large. Now, the thing here with these meta packages is that you probably should only choose one. It wouldn't make sense, honestly, to choose all of them. So I'm going to leave it with the default. That's not just the top 10. The base system with no pen testing tools. If you just want to use it, for example, as a forensics-based system, or something like that, say you could install tools by purpose, your forensics or reporting, or say if you wanted to use it more or less as a disposable OSINT platform, open source intelligence, social engineering, exploitation, whatnot. If you were building this VM to just throw it away when you're done with it, you might pick exactly what you need, particularly if you have to think about not taking up a whole lot of space. So anyway, what I'm going to do is not deal with this install tools by purpose stuff. I'm going to leave it generic, default, XCFE, continue. And I'll pause again because this is going to take some time. As usual, see, 63 packages. This could take 15 or 20 minutes. Okay, so we're back. It's been installing, I would guess, for the last 20 to 30 minutes. So it wants to know if I want to install the grub bootloader to the MBR. Absolutely. give it STA1, and it's going to do that. And this might take a while again. So it said it's finishing the installation. Good. But I'm going to pause it just to make sure. And it's finished. So I'm ready to reboot. I'm going to click continue. It's going to finish the installation. I noted as things scrolled by, they did actually install the Open VMware tools already. So that's one less thing for me to worry about. Now, for all these systems, you probably don't have to do all three of these VMs. You don't have to do everything we would have done with our Debian systems. As long as you have Nmap, oh, and here's the very simple boot menu. This is Grub, super simplified. And it's booting Linux 5.4. Yeah, as I said, if you don't need VMware tools, CUPS, etc., skip it. Kali is, and Kali in particular, unless you're going to be using it as a desktop distro, and chances are you're not going. Interesting. That was the login screen, but I wasn't there long enough to do anything about it. And I also saw the splash screen. Now, one thing you can do with Grub is turn splash on and off. So it is obviously, okay, now, I am me. Enter. And we have Kali by Offensive Security. And let me change this. I've got it into stretch mode. Keep the aspect ratio. Let me turn the stretch mode off completely. Now this Kali might be handling stretch a little bit better. Okay, so what I've got here, I've got my wired connection. It has been disconnected. No, I didn't want that one. Okay, actually, let me notice I've got my I've got some icons up here. I've got my terminal emulator. I've got a recording program right inside Kali. So let me see IP address show, and I'm Nmap localhost. I should come up with nothing. Okay, good. That's fine. I could uname-a myself, and I see Kali 5.4, AMD 64, 1 symmetric multiprocessor. I see its build date. It's x86 64 GNU Linux. Sudo, and let me look at groups, and I am in the sudo group. So sudo apt-get update. And so we obviously see the fingerprints of Debian all over this thing, because when I did sudo on my Ubuntu system, let me do upgrade. Let me see if there's anything new and different. Now this is a rolling release, so what it did in the background is got the latest and greatest of everything. So there's probably a lot less that you have to do. Now, if I wanted to, I could fire up things like SSH, and maybe I will in the future, but for now, this is Kali. I've got my menu option here. I see the usual stuff. Let me see if links is installed. Okay, so sudo apt-get links. Oh, apt-get install links. And yeah, and I might do some other things. Get gvim and such. Sudo apt get vim gtk, because I really do like vim. But I'm at about 14.5 minutes, so I'll stop here. So this is what you would do when you're good and ready to build your Kali VM. Now, if you've already done this in your ITDF 1300 class, great. You just follow the instructions and you'll be good. So until next time, take care of yourself.